bold journalism,
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
exposing lawlessness,
Hernandez, who is ideological,
finding the truth,
and use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
What's going on, thought criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I am your host, Drew Hernandez. A lot of news to get through today. The deep state is throwing President Joe Biden overboard. He's the new fall guy, and I'm not talking about him falling down the steps of the Air Force One. We are talking about him getting completely thrown overboard by the deep state. Big news drop in regards to that. And also, the new Twitter files have come out and confirmed yet again that the Russian collusion hoax and conspiracy that the left was pushing all over President Trump and all over his supporters has been proven to be debunked again through the new Twitter file dump. But it appears Twitter knew this whole time that it was a fraud and a hoax. No surprise there. And I could think of no one better to talk about this with me than the great Roger Stone. He's coming up in just a few seconds. But you guys got to take a look at this stuff, man, that's going on with President Joe Biden. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the front lines. Let's get straight into this. Well, if you haven't heard by now, this is just viral all over the place. Let's start with this document. This White House special counsel document says all but one of these documents were found in storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. No documents were found in the beach residence. So here's Peter Doocy of Fox News confronting President Joe Biden about storing classified documents in his house garage. Look at his response.
Mr. President,
Okay.
classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, look, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage. Okay, so it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
But anyway,
was in a locked garage.
yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center.
Gosh.
The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified.
Okay, all right, I can't dig it anymore. Get this clown off. Get him off. Okay. So investigators on social media are pointing out that a video from 2020 of Biden riding around in his Corvette, trying to push the EV thing. There's a clip at the end where he's backing his Corvette into the back of a garage, and you see boxes in the garage, and people are rightfully pointing out, are those the classified documents sitting out in the open in this guy's garage? I don't know. I mean, the interesting part is this guy literally admits that, hey, they're secured, just like my Corvette is in my garage. That's where these classified documents are, okay? So you need to get it right, Peter Doocy. I mean, on the surface, this is just like clown world out in the open, but there's something deeper going on. And I could think of no one better to talk about this with than a man that is directly involved, engaging the deep state for decades, that has been... These people have targeted him, his wife, his life, the deep state, the FBI, all of these political operatives. I could think of nobody better to talk about this than the great host of the Stone Zone on Lindell TV, political mastermind, Roger Stone himself. Roger, my brother in Christ, thank you so much for joining me on the front lines today.
Drew, thank you very much. It is only through the power of Jesus Christ that I'm alive to be with you today, and I'm deeply grateful for that, and I'm not ashamed to say it. This is really quite extraordinary, and I think it is the straw that breaks the camel's back. In other words, notice who first reported this story. It was NBC, followed up by CNN. That tells me that the cabal, that the Obama directed Democrat media, corporate world, Wall Street, big pharma cabal has finally decided that Joe Biden is expendable, that the burden of his potential exposure with his son and his brother on matters of treason and corruption, combined with now the effort to destroy Donald Trump over documents. We don't even know what those documents are. We don't know that they're classified or not classified. But clearly, Joe Biden had classified documents, we're told, pertaining to Ukraine, Russia, and other sensitive matters. So the old double standard, the two-tiered justice system is on full display here. So I still believe that the Obamas and the machinery of the Democratic Party is going to recognize, if they haven't already, and I think they already have, which is why CNN and NBC were allowed to turn on the president, is that he is just too heavy a burden to carry into an election. Now you add to that his, shall we say, performance in public, and I think that they either 25th Amendment him. Otherwise, I think there's a high probability that he's going to be criminally prosecuted. The House is going to writ large for the American people what we already know. We have seen the accurate reporting in the New York Post about what is in Hunter's laptop. There is very clearly evidence of both corruption and, I would argue, treason by the first family. And now you add to that gas prices, food shortages, inflation, the possibility of war. I think he's just too heavy a burden to carry. So he either resigns and he pardons his brother and himself and probably his son, or his son, his brother, and probably himself on the way out the door. Or I think ultimately the 25th Amendment only requires a majority of the cabinet plus the sitting vice president. Of course, she would become president. So I think Joe Biden's toast.
Let me ask you this, Roger. Two things. Do you think that Vice President Kamala Harris wants this, number one? And also, do you think that if they do 25th Amendment President Joe Biden, is he going to go out like a bad guy, or are they going to prop him up like some kind of saint, martyr, veteran on his way out into the sunset that served his country?
They would attribute his resignation or his removal to health problems. Everybody can see he has certain cognitive issues. That's definitely a blind man not to see that. The people around Joe Biden have to pray that Kamala Harris does not become president, because for some weird reason, they have treated her kind of the way the Kennedy brothers treated Lyndon Johnson. She sat on the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. She has traveled. She is the vice president, but she is really denigrated by the Biden people. And if she became president, I would think two things. One, for those out there saying, oh my God, she's going to be president. No, it really doesn't matter. Barack Obama is still your de facto president. So the policies don't change. And secondarily, she's an epically weak candidate if she decides to run for re-election. So weak, in fact, I have predicted that they will ultimately shunt her aside as well, and that Michelle Obama is potentially, without any question, the strongest possible candidate for the Democrats. Michelle Obama is not out doing voter registrations and book signings and documentary tours for her health.
You know what's interesting about this, Roger? Part of the reason I wanted to bring you on is because you've been predicting this not just like the past couple weeks. I heard you on InfoWars talking with Alex Jones like months ago, saying that this would be the next play that they would play out because he's obviously problematic for optics in what's taking place in American politics. Where do you think this goes next with the installation once that takes place, 2024 and beyond? What's the next phase for the deep state, in your opinion?
I would say that there are two factors here. First of all, I would keep an eye on Gavin Newsom. If he can't be president, he'd like to be vice president. If Biden were removed, then the sitting president, in this case, Vice President Kamala Harris, would be entitled to appoint a vice president, but that appointment would be subject to the approval of both houses, not one house, but both houses, which with the Republican House could become a tough crawl in this politicized atmosphere. The other point I would make is that now that the documents thing has collapsed and shown to be the joke that it is, that former President Barack Obama, George W. Bush, they have tens of thousands of documents, in the case of Obama, millions, that were supposed to have been returned to the National Archive and have not been, but we're going to prosecute Donald Trump for it. That's fallen apart. This is over. They cannot go after Trump on the basis of document retention. That means all the focus will now be on Special Prosecutor Jack Smith and the January 6th investigation. I saw nothing in the bogus investigation by Adam Schiff and his colleagues that indicated actual vulnerability by the president. They made a political case. They ignored exculpatory evidence. They elevated, in many cases, fabricated. It was a complete fabrication. How does one have an investigation into January 6th and not show the film of the murder of Ashley Babbitt and call that police officer who shot and killed her to the stand? How does one investigate January 6th without asking any questions of the Capitol Hill police chief? Who opened the doors from the inside? Who is Ray Epps? Why is Ray Epps even mentioned in their report?
Or all the videographers that witnessed her murder.
Yeah. So I mean, and the murder of Roseanne Boylan. So this is their last attempt to do something about Trump. What's really funny is that you've got these twin messages coming out of the establishment. On the one hand, it is Trump is damaged, he's diminished, he's finished, he's bored, the party's done with him. Oh my God, we've got to charge him with some crime so he can't run again. Because they don't want to run against Donald Trump. He is resourceful, he is wily, he is tough, and he hates to see what's happening to this country. He left us the most robust, productive economy in our history, record job growth, record wage growth, lowest possible levels of unemployment among all peoples, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, young, old. Billions of dollars coming back into this country to be invested here, to create jobs here. He rebuilt respect for us around the world. People feared the United States. They didn't love us, they feared us. And he was a wild card, and therefore the Chinese and the Russians did not want to test him. The foreign policy of Joe Biden is one of weakness, and it is provocative. It's what's put Taiwan in danger. And it has driven the Russians into the hands of the Iranians, who are not their natural allies.
Absolutely. He was bad for business, for the deep state, for D.C., and the world abroad. He was the populist leader that unplugged and red-pilled a lot of people, so it makes sense why they are in overdrive right now. You guys, this is serious stuff. Well, we got Kaylin, Frontlines reporter, on the ground to kind of get what people are thinking about this and what the general public thinks about a sitting president storing classified documents in his garage. And it's pretty interesting, so take a look.
Doesn't bother me. He's the president, he can do what he wants.
Do you think a president storing classified documents in his garage is appropriate, safe, or responsible?
No, I do not.
I don't think it's appropriate, I guess, yeah, because, like, it could be found anywhere. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, I think that's common sense. I think that but common sense is dead these days.
Not at all. His personal garage. No, I don't think so.
Seems a little reckless.
Well, if his name is Joe Biden and his son is named Hunter Biden, I think not.
No, it's not.
Depending on the person, I do know accidents happen, but there should be rules in place to make sure that things like that don't happen.
Not appropriate.
No.
Recent Twitter file dump today just dropped. Matt Taibbi has dropped a new Twitter file dump that has to do with Twitter fully understanding and knowing that the Russiagate conspiracy or accusations against President Trump and all of his colleagues at the time that helped him get elected, which is not a crime, but they tried to make it be one, was a hoax, and they knew it was a hoax. All of it was a hoax. Here is the Twitter dump. Twitter officials were aghast, finding no evidence of Russian influence. Here are quotes from them at the time. "We are feeding congressional trolls Not any significant activity connected to Russia. Putting the cart before the horse, assuming this is propaganda / bots. We are feeding congressional trolls. Hashtag release the memo. Our initial inquiry, based on available data, has not identified any significant activity connected to Russia with respect to tweets posting original content with this hashtag. They knew this years ago. This is internal in Twitter. We already know it was a hoax. But internally in Twitter, where they claim they have such a big platform and they have such an accountability and a responsibility to communicate to the public what's really going on. Never said a thing. And they let people's lives get destroyed over this lie, including people like Roger Stone. Roger, what is your immediate reaction to this? And what is the next step here?
Yeah, it's really quite extraordinary. So Devin Nunes, as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, did a very thorough job of investigating the claims of Russian collusion, and he came up with nothing. I testified for the House Intelligence Committee, and nothing I said that was a misstatement was material. There was no Russian collusion to lie about. There was no WikiLeaks collaboration to lie about. I wasn't involved in the phishing and publication of John Podesta's emails, all of which CNN said I did, but I didn't do. There was nothing to cover up. So the point here, of course, is that Nunes comes out with a completely authoritative report, and immediately Schiff and company launch an alternative report in which they say that Nunes is wrong about everything. In fact, we now know Nunes is right about everything. And then Feinstein, Adam Schiff, and Vietnam war hero Richard Blumenthal put pressure on Twitter to block anybody involving hashtags or anybody who's talking about Nunes's highly authoritative and we now know accurate report. This is outrageous. It's outrageous that the Democrats demanded it. It is even more outrageous that Twitter granted it. We now know that one of the major contentions of Robert Mueller's final report, that the Russians were effectively using bots, even though in the case of Facebook, they showed an ad buy of $100,000, which in a campaign in which several $100 million was spent in the election, is a drop in the bucket that wouldn't move anyone. And when they examined the content, some of it was pro-Hillary. Some of it was pro-Trump, some of it was anti-Trump, some of it was anti-Bernie, some of it was pro-Bernie. So whoever's doing this was all over the place and having no impact. Now we know that these trolls may have been congressional operatives rather than Russians.
Let me ask
Russian bots.
Exactly. Let me ask you this, Roger. So on a personal level, because we have a bit of a younger audience and people may not know you, they may not know your story or just exactly what just happened. People may have just been red-pilled recently because they're finding out just how deep this rabbit hole goes with the deep state. Can you explain to the audience how this directly went after you? The FBI showed up to your house at like 6 a.m. Break it down, Roger.
It's really simple. I'm a 40-year friend of Donald Trump's. I'm one of the first people in the country as a friend and as a longtime political strategist to tell him he should consider a race for presidency. I nursed this dream for many, many decades. In 2016, he was finally elected. I had no formal role in his election, but I supported him very, very vigorously from my own platform. And one of the things that I did, which drove the left crazy, was I set a Google alert for Julian Assange. I took what Assange was saying about the Clintons and what he was going to do, and I posted it on Twitter. It's pretty much that simple. There was a New York gadfly by the name of Randy Credico who said he knew a woman lawyer who had done work for Assange, and Assange had some kind of bombshell to drop in October on Hillary. That's it. Well, the problem is Assange himself alluded to that in public. It was a matter of public record, but I was charged with lying about that when there was nothing to lie about. The real reason that they targeted me, and I was looking at 7 to 9 years in jail for allegedly lying to Congress after 29 FBI agents raided my home at 6 o'clock in the morning with CNN cameras terrorizing my wife and 2 dogs. This is for the first time nonviolent crime of allegedly lying to Congress. But to violate the False Statements Act, one's statement must both be willful and it must be material, meaning covering some underlying crime. There is no underlying crime to cover because there is no Russian collusion. They prosecuted me to squeeze me and pressure me to testify against Donald Trump. I was arrested in January. By July, they were saying, you're going to jail for the rest of your life unless you turn on Trump. And I refused to. I'd already passed 3 polygraph tests at that point to begin with. So it wasn't credible, and it also wasn't true, and I wouldn't do it. But yes, my wife and I lost everything, our home, our car, most of our insurance, our savings, my ability to work, because I was gagged for 16 months and I was under siege for 2. It is a horrific experience. It is only, as I have said, my redemption in Jesus Christ and my putting my faith in the Lord that got me through this incredible storm, where the mainstream media teamed up with the Democrats to tell people over and over and over again, I'm not a loyal American. I'm a traitor. I'm a Russian simp. I'm a Russian spy. All those things are false. They still get flung at me on Twitter. They still get flung at me in grocery stores and drugstores and restaurants and airports. There's only one problem. It's not true. I had members of my own family run down by Russian tanks in Budapest in 1956. There is no Russian collusion, and now we have even more proof of it.
Absolutely, and it ultimately led to President Trump pardoning you, not because you guys are buds and because you guys are friends, but because what was done to you was evil and based on literally a lie. Let me ask you this, Roger. Now that we have these Twitter revelations, would you say that maybe Twitter coming out and saying something during that entire time when you were being lied about and your life potentially being destroyed forever, don't you think that could have maybe helped you out a little bit?
Well, people would had to. I wasn't allowed to speak at all. I was entirely gagged. So, and I would ultimately was banned on Twitter in 2017. I was banned on Facebook for life and Instagram in 2020. So I basically had no mainstream social media platform. Today, you can find me on Gab. You can find me on Telegram. You can find me on Getter, although I don't love it. Now I have been restored to Twitter, and I'm grateful to Elon Musk for that. I'm grateful to the Lord, and it's a platform that I'm using judiciously. But one of the things that I believe is that one of the things that the Lord wants me to do is talk about my own redemption and how I was saved, because there are other people out there with problems, whether it is alcoholism or drug addiction or depression or family problems or health problems or financial problems or economic problems or spiritual problems. If I can be saved, anyone can be saved. So I feel that's part of my mission to talk about.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You hear it from the man himself, Roger Stone, breaking it down for us here on the front lines. I love listening to Roger on InfoWars, OG War Room, Owen Schroyer, Alex Jones. So when he's on my show, I'm just kind of sitting here like, it's like I'm watching him again. So that's why I just kind of like shut up, sit back, let the man talk, because this is years of experience facing the devil with Christ now. It's amazing. Roger, where can people follow you and find your show so we can continue to collaborate and spread this information?
So you can watch me every day at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central at stonezone.live. You can follow me also at rogerstone.substack.com. We have a very lively Substack where I break down a lot of history and politics that people really don't know. I also have an active website, stonezone.com, where I curate some news and contribute some pieces of myself, a lot of videos there. You can go to the store there, I should say the shop, to get your Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong t-shirt, which I'm going to mail you one of those, Drew. I want you to wear it on air. You got it.
You got it.
You find me.
You got it, Roger. Thank you so much for joining me. Everyone go follow him and watch him. Thank you for joining me today, Roger Stone.
God bless you.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are facing. Not conspiracy, not lies. And when I say not lies, everything that they say that is true, okay, they say is a lie from you. So what we're facing is, at this point, everything that they're saying is a conspiracy theory. Everything that you're watching, everything that you're seeing that is obviously right out in the open, that they call lies, this is what we are up against. We are up against propagandists, corporate fascists, deep state authoritarian, homicidal maniacs, okay, that are willing to destroy your life based off of a lie, imprisoning you, taking your life, and stripping you of everything that you possibly could have. Not just you, but your family as well. Why? Because you are a threat to the regime. Because you love freedom, you stand with Christ, you stand for truth. That is why these people are going to go after you. It's called persecution. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the front lines. I'll see you guys on the next one.
We must play offense. Game on.
You expect the rest of the world to live in La La Land. We're not.
We've been saying these things from day one.
Our solemn vow to you: be good, be brief, be gone.
You might find yourself changing your opinion on things you've never even thought twice about. That really sets America apart.
You are not ready for season 2. This is Reloaded.
My life, tale, and my truth has been to fight socialism.
Are you familiar with structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.